Hello, my name is Dr. Nicola Felton. Welcome to the Color of Me movement, TCOMM Monday. Let's get started. Well, here we are. Just published a series of books called the Color of Me movement. And this movement is all about implementing color into your child's personal space, as well as on their clothes, on their walls in their rooms, accent pieces to help modify unwanted or negative behavior and emotions in children. This is not a substitute, but an adjunct to any other type of treatment measures that you have. Now, first thing that we're going to talk about is who is TCOMM for? Well, if you are a professional and you work with parents who may be struggling with understanding the information that they need to understand about their child's behavior and emotion disorders, if you are a professional and you have a difficult time just fitting in enough time to explain things to parents and caregivers so that they can help their children better, then TCOMM is for you. If you are a parent and you struggle with one, understanding and implementing because your child may be in a behavior and it's emotionally overwhelming and traumatic to you and the child to have to stop and try to remember every single thing that the child did so you can pass it on to the therapist or whenever you see another treatment care provider in a week or two, then TCOMM is for you. If you struggle with trying to find healthier ways to help your child without adding additional medication, then TCOMM is for you. If you're an individual and you were actually diagnosed with a behavior or emotion disorder when you were a child, and you're struggling now trying to see if you still have that same behavior or emotional diagnosis today, or understanding perhaps what people think that they saw when you were younger, and you want to be able to express yourself and perhaps continue in your therapeutic process and can't remember every single thing that you go through on a daily basis, then TCOMM is for you. Now, TCOMM talks about color and how to use color in your lives to help you modify unwanted negative behaviors and emotions in children. This will also work with young adults. So, first thing that we've done is we're establishing a timeline to publish a specific amount of books. And each quarter, we'll be publishing a set of 2 books. In the first quarter, we have published the Color of Me movement autism and the Color of Me movement ADHD. And we will talk about later the 7 other behavior and emotion disorders that are coming. So one thing that I want to go over with you first, though, that this is a guidebook. Okay, this guidebook can be used by the professionals, it can be used by the parents and caregivers as well as individuals. Inside the guidebook are just a basic synopsis of each and every disorder. This is a little bit, matter of fact, I want to say a lot easier to read than the APA manual or any other great manual that you can, see. Therapists and mental health professionals use different guidebooks in helping them determine behavior and emotion disorders. And one of those is called the DSM. The DSM has a lot of information in there. And if an individual who has not been trained to read and understand that book, it could be a little bit confusing. So there are some simple things that have been taken out of the DSM and other reference material in order to create this guidebook. So, basic disorders that we will be covering as time goes on over the next year. Actually, I think the last publication will actually come out in January. We're going to be covering OCD, ODD, food aversion, and depression, anxiety, giftedness with ADHD and OCD behavior. Sometimes we think about the diagnosis as gifted. Oftentimes we have children that are diagnosed as gifted. If they have ADD or OCD, some people say, oh, it's because they're gifted. So they don't really get the diagnosis, which means they don't really get the treatment and care that they need. So we want to make sure our parents are understanding what it is that their children need, even though they might be considered gifted. Other things that we're going to talk about a little bit is nutrition. We often forget that sometimes children, especially in today's age and things that they're doing to preserve food and make it last longer for us, children are developing a lot of food allergies, and those allergies sometimes will bring about behavior and emotions in children that we will get confused with something else. And so that's another reason why these workbook and the guidebooks are so important, because it does ask specific questions about different foods that you've changed or implemented into your child's diet to kind of help the therapist determine whether or not this could be food related or this is actually a behavior and emotion that we need to be focused on. So as you go through this guidebook, like I said, professionals and parents and caregivers as well, individuals can use it, because professionals can assign information out of the guidebooks for parents to work on each week, or whether you go once a week or once every 2 weeks, that you can work on to ensure they get accurate information. And I don't want to skip too much around, but what I mean by accurate information is that oftentimes we are talking to parents who struggle with their child's diagnosis. They're thinking maybe the child has a different behavior and emotions acting out when they're actually in the therapist's office than they have at home. Well, it's true. I mean, they do. Most people are on their best behavior if they know they're being observed, even if they have behavior emotions that's difficult for them to control. They really try hard to control them when they're in the therapist's office, and you can see the difference. So the therapist, oh, well, maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Or if they don't really want to be in the therapist's office, sometimes the behavior emotions is worse than normally displayed at home. And so we want to get to the heart of why that happens and what we could do about it. So in the guidebook, it's allows you an opportunity to be able to document and write down things that are occurring at home. But the benefit of these books is that it's not a bunch of blank pages where you've got to go fill in everything that has occurred that you can possibly remember. There are actually specific questions that are asked that your therapist, they're going to want to know the answers to these particular questions. And therefore, you're not giving them information that is not going to be beneficial to the diagnosis of your child. You're actually giving them information that they would need. So going back to the guidebook a little bit, a lot of different things in here that we can cover. We talk about in the guidebook the introduction to the color ring. Each disorder has what we call a color ring, 2 words, color and ring. And it gives you a circle of colors that will elicit particular behavior and emotions in children that will help you determine which colors to use. So if we have a color ring and it says it helps to motivate children to be calmer, right? That's the color. And you decide, well, I don't want to use that color because my kid's already calm. And so then you use another color. And so it gives you different types of behavior and emotions that are associated with that color. And it's easier for you to figure it out. So the guidebook, that's very brief. As the weeks go on, we will talk about the guidebook more. But one thing I do want to mention in this guidebook, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Zena O'Connor. She is fantastic. And she has a lot of information on color. She actually did the foreword for the book. And I just want to bring up just one thing that she says. Hopefully you'll get the book, you'll read it, and you'll get to read her feedback in entirety. I don't want to flip through here too much. But one thing that she shared in her foreword is talking about color being used as a non-verbal signaling device on a wide variety of purposes across a range of different colors. And so one thing that I want to talk about is taking what we used to use and the research that is really minimal at this time and taking it to the next level. We talk about color when it comes to advertising. We talk about the best colors that look good on us. We talk about the cutest colors for kids. We even have come up with shades of pink and shades of blue for boys and girls. Reality of it is, it doesn't matter whether your child is a boy or girl. Pink or blue will work, depending on what behavior emotions you're trying to get your child to express, or even how they feel themselves. Some kids might feel just more comfortable in different colors that may not be gender specific. So we're all about gender neutrality. I like everything that Dr. Connor shared in here, because everyone that works with art therapy, color theories, working with children doing play therapy, art therapy, tray therapy, sand tray therapy. I mean, we talk about color a lot, and it is important to know that color can be stimulating in a positive way. It can also be overstimulating. So I want to be mindful of that. Okay. All right, so the next thing that we're going to move on, we're going to talk about how you can actually use the Color of Me movement, how it works. So each set of books, you'll see it's 2 here. We have a workbook here, and then we have the journal. So one thing that the workbook covers that I absolutely love is the color ring. And talked about that a little bit. Remember, color ring, color, and then ring, 2 words. I'm going to briefly sneak you a peek of this coloring for autism here. Just a sneak peek. Don't tell anyone. Can you see that there? See all those colors? Well, they're pastel colors. That's what's so fantastic about it. Because kids with autism, and we put Asperger's syndrome in here as well, because the DSM has actually put Asperger's on the same spectrum with autism. So as you go through that, you'll get this coloring saying these are the best colors for your children, right? Children with autism. And on different levels, because, they all come in different levels. There's no cookie cutter behavior and emotion disorders. Here, you're going to see this too. As you go through the book, I have a little butterfly here, the Color of Me movement butterfly, and it will trail down each color. It will show you a lot of things about the color and tell you how to actually implement that into your child's personal space. You don't always have to paint the walls. You don't have to go out and buy new wardrobes. But there's a series of things you can do. You can do an accent wall. You can buy accent items to put in the room. Something that will help your child focus and refocus. And it helps children help themselves too. It's now, I guess, the best opportunity for children to help modify their own behavior is giving them colors and other things in their life that are going to be soothing to them versus putting them in timeout when they have a negative behavior, telling them that they're embarrassing you when they have a negative behavior. This way, we focus on the child and how they're functioning and performing every single day versus the behavior itself. Because what I don't want people to do is when the child is in a behavior, to be in the behavior with the child. That is the most difficult thing, right? So I do know, though, that when a child is acting out and is out of control and you're doing your best as a parent to calm them down, the last thing you want to be thinking about is what did they just do and what is it that I have to share with a therapist? Well, you go through this workbook, and it gives you a lot of information about different colors specific to the disorder that your child's working with. So it's all about you here. And then you go to what we're doing with this daily journal. It is fantastic. What I like about the journal is I have a lot of journals. I love journals. I journal every day. Sometimes I journal 2 or 3 times a day. Anytime I have a thought, I just write it down. And some people are like that, and some people are not. Some people are like, I don't have time, I don't remember, and I don't even want to readdress what I had gone over or went through at that time. However, when you have a child that has behavior and emotion disorders and you're trying to get the best treatment for them, you want to be able to remember what they were going through during that behavior, things that you may not think about in the time. So this journal is what I call the question journal because it is filled with question prompts. So if you can't remember everything that your child went through in a behavior, whether they are improving or they're not improving, you want to be able to have someone maybe ask you a question to help you remember what they were actually going through. And that's what this journal does. It asks you questions every single day for you to be able to put in any information that you need. So I'm going to give you an example so you can kind of have an idea of what this journal can do for you. So here we're looking at week 10. So each journal starts with a really nice quote, an inspirational, motivational quote there. This one is by Mahatma Gandhi, and it says, "A no, uttered from the deepest conviction, is better than a yes, merely uttered to please, or words to avoid trouble." So yes, these quotes are about you, mom and dad, caregivers, right? Aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters. It is important to be able to get into your child's space in their mind, kind of think what they're thinking and understand them better. This will help you when you're passing on information to the child's treatment team or primary care providers because you will have information that's more specific. What these books do for you is they ask the questions and allow you to give information specifically based on what the therapist or the treatment care provider may need in order to make an accurate diagnosis of your child. Because I'm going to come back to this because I have a thought that just came to me. How many parents have actually said, "I think my child is misdiagnosed. I don't think they know my child as best as they think they do. I don't think my child is getting anything out of this." Exactly. Well, what we don't know, what we haven't considered, is that if we as parents are passing on and sharing the information with the primary care provider about our child's behavioral and emotional disorders, or their acting out behaviors, how they're doing when their behavior is changing, when